not 6.5 years, almost near 12 years ago, you and I locked eyes. There we were.
In the yonder.
Yeah, I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quickly. I'm making his dog like I'm in the big leagues. Yeah, I told him I'ma hit it out of stands. I deserve another 100 bands.
Welcome to another episode of the Married Game Podcast. We are the voice you trust when it comes to lust. We are who you hire when she lacks desire. And we want to get into it today, don't we?
I think we're going to tell our story.
Yes.
Our story. How we started, how we got here.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but we want to remind them, don't be a nerd, spread the word. If you find this show valuable. Also, we have these provocateur shirts. If you are watching on YouTube or you are watching some other way, these are shirts you earn by coming through Married Game and coming through the 2-day live event, which we have coming up here in a few days.
Woo!
And I'm fired up, and let me tell you why. Not that this will come out before then, but for guys who understand that when they come through Married Game, you're not just getting online coaching like where it's through a screen, but you've got to come here to the man cave to actually pass phase 1 of Married Game. And
it's a difference when you see the people that we're coaching in person and hang out with them.
And it's the game changer for them is when they meet us and they go, oh, these motherfuckers haven't kind of been through what we've been through. They've been through it even worse than what we've been through. And now they're like staring at people that actually love each other in a weird way. Mm-hmm. So I'm really fired up because I have a lot of energy around this because I understand what's going to happen when these guys get here. And, the only way I can really describe it, and I'm excited about this, I've done a lot of live events. I've done a lot of experiential training. I've coached 4 days straight. I mean, I've done all sorts of crazy things. And what I'm most excited about this one is because it's the actual surgical removal of a lot of the shit that's holding them back. And I know how to see it the same way you do.
Yeah. It's so fun,
and
isn't
you're like, if you just did this, oh, fuck, do you not hear that? And
it's hard to see it when you're in your own fog.
Yeah, and it's hard to see it when you're not around other guys who are also committed to living by the same code of, hey man, we're gonna go all in on this shit. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting. So, but not 6.5 years, almost near 12 years ago, you and I locked eyes. There we were.
In the yonder, so far away.
Had grown up only an hour away from each other in busy Southern California.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm a 909er for life.
You are a 909er for life. 909er
909er for life.
And
you're a little bit more Orange County.
Not a little bit. A lot of bit.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, though?
We weren't so close to the coast.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time surfing, so I was on the coast a lot. You were about an hour or so inland. Mm-hmm. But that being said, we both were raised very differently. Mm-hmm. I was raised very religious. You were raised not even religious.
Very rock star.
I was, very rock star. I was raised by an East Coast mom, so she was very like, I think it's where my bluntness has come from. Yeah. I'm pretty blunt, like just say it how it is. I'm becoming more and more blunt in my age and my inability to deal with bullshit anymore of myself and others. So we meet each other in this spot, and we are very different human beings back then than we are now, which led to so much of the pain that we experienced.
I was 25. Yeah.
So as anybody remembers in their relationship, because I want to make sure this is applicable, so we're going to dive in and out of their relationship and our relationship at the same time. Mm. So everybody remembers when they first meet their person for the first time. Your hair looks really good, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're pulling off those vibes. Yeah, I can tell. It's almost beautiful 70 Farrah Fawcett vibes.
I literally said that yesterday because the hair lady was like, let's put some zhuzh right here. And I was like, it's like Farrah Fawcett.
That's exactly right. Okay, well, she's right.
Your fantasy, since you're like a million times older than me, right?
Yeah, possibly. All right. People remember when they met their spouse for the first time. Mm-hmm. I remember meeting you for the very first time. Mm-hmm. And you at Hooters.
I was working at Hooters.
You were working at Hooters.
I was a Hooters waitress. All the best come from there.
Yes, all the best. come from Hooters, and I had met a couple of the other gals before I had met you. You always kind of giggle inside when I say gals, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. I had met a couple of the other women there and had never really experienced Hooters. I'd never been in a Hooters until about a week or two before I met you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you, but
I've
I
been
knew
in
that you were
strip
kind of
clubs, but I've never been in a Hooters.
So I know you were kind of like a regular, like you've been in a couple of times because some of the girls, or you said hi to some of them. But I remember exactly where you were sitting, like right by the door. You would teach real estate then, and you would bring your clients in to just get some lunch.
Yeah.
And
The first time I met you, you opened your billfold, and
no, I was selling the shot glass that I was on.
But I think even before that, because I think you came and took our order first and everything, and then I think the sales pitch, the shot glass sales
the shot
pitch
glass
was later.
the first time.
No?
Nope. And the second time was when I opened that and I had a picture of my brother in there in the army. You thought
Right.
that was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, okay, she's taking.
Yeah.
Little did I know that was your brother. He was in the army. I probably did some fun game with you, and a lot of fun games with you to get you.
To get me in bed.
And just to sleep. I just wanted to
And
sleep
I had a
with
boyfriend at the time, remember? But
Yeah.
I remember you kept coming in, and then we started just kind of chatting, like a little bit more as humans, not just you as like the regular or whatever. So I kind of got to know you.
I would come in about once a week.
Yeah.
About once a week. I thought, this is a great spot. It was near where a lot of the work we were doing was.
And you got to flirt with all the girls.
And I got to flirt with all the girls
So,
and just work
win-win.
Yeah, so it was just win-win.
Win-win for you.
Yeah, and I had a couple clients that were lesbians, so they're like, fuck yeah, Hooters, let's go.
Yeah. So I remember you coming in and we kind of got to know each other a little bit more. Did you bring your kids in during that time?
No. So what happened?
Did we go on a date first?
No. You end up breaking up with your guy.
Uh-huh.
And then I saw you at...
But we hung out a couple of times before that.
No, I didn't. We went to sushi with
As
your
friends.
friend. As friends.
Yeah.
Sushi. We went shopping and sushi.
Yeah.
And then we went sushi with your buddy before your surgery. And then I didn't see you guys for a while. I had stopped coming in for a while.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, and then
I
figured it all out.
Yeah, you figured out your situation.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything unbecoming or anything like that.
Just friends.
And
I had saw you.
Yeah.
And I had already, separated and had the sting and was over that loss and moved on. And so I saw you and in my head, I was like, I want a one night stand.
Yeah.
And I know the crazy guy who would probably do that.
Yeah.
And I hardly knew what you did or what I didn't know too much about your situation. Well, I saw you and I was like, hey, here's my number again.
Yeah.
And then you text me and you were like, want to come out and meet me and my friends out or whatever?
Yeah.
And I go, yeah. And when I went and it was hailing, I drove an hour, but I was like, no, I'm in it. We're having fun.
What were you thinking in that moment, just out of funsies?
Because this is like what the hell am I doing?
Really?
But, well, yeah. I thought I was gonna have a one night stand,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what am I doing? This is crazy. But I was like, whatever, just live life.
Yeah.
I juggle between those two.
Sure.
And then so I got there and it's at a hotel and you're still putting on your real estate seminar thing and you grab my hand and take me into this huge room with all like hundreds of people.
Yeah, it was like 600 there.
You finished up, you went on stage, finished up what you talked to all these people and I'm like, what the hell? I didn't know that about you at all.
Wow.
I just knew you just taught real
estate. It's just
estate.
hitting me right now how probably like, what the fuck
I
is going
was
on
like,
around
what
here?
the hell? And then, obviously I'm a woman who likes a man on stage. And I was like, yes, this shit's
Wow.
cool.
You're like, this one night stand just got a
Whoa.
little more interesting.
It got very interesting. Then
Wow.
you kissed me in the elevator or in the hotel room, something like that. And then we went out and we had drinks and ate. And the people that you did the seminar with, some of them were there, but we just danced all night and had a good time. And I was like, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
So,
then we didn't hang out the second night.
Well, let me kind of fill in a few
Oh,
cracks.
well, I just got to say, then you just
Okay.
fumbled all over this. Because we didn't hang out the second night.
Did you just touch your Farrah Fawcett girls?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we hung out the night after, and then you were hooked. That was like it.
Yeah.
It's true, because you asked me to be your girlfriend a week later from that.
9 days.
Yeah.
10 days later. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was...
You're still tripping over me, I can tell.
That's awfully quick time for you to say yes to a guy. He must have been a real stunner.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
We had a good time. We had fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's been... We've been talking about fun lately, but instantly our relationship has always been super fun.
Yeah. So what happened, to fill in a few of the details, was not that people need to fill in the details, but...
Well, we're telling our story.
Well, we get a lot of details.
They can
like, what
skim
is
through it
your
if they don't
story?
want to listen.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of couples can maybe remember back when they first kissed. I remember our first kiss.
Where exactly were we?
Okay, so I
Was it in
said,
the elevator,
"Hey, I'm
or-
gonna straight iron my hair. My hair was it was a little longer, and so I borrowed a straight iron. I grabbed your hand, and we walked up to my room." And I was active, that weekend, and pretty typical in my life. I had a lot of activity going on with the females, and I thought, I like this girl. She seems cool as shit, but like, I'm here to have fun, and I didn't know how much fun you wanted to have. I could get your vibe, but I didn't know perfectly. So there's tests you would like to see, right? People test what they want to trust. So. And then you kissed me, so the trust went up, so the lust went up.
Oh my God.
Okay, so the straight iron on the hair didn't quite work out, and I was in great shape, probably even better shape than I am now, maybe. And I said, well, that's not going to work. So I tore off my shirt, and I said, didn't you say you used to cut hair or something? Maybe you can just trim up my hair, and we'll just kind of go that route. And you're like, okay, that sounds good. So we're trimming up our hair. You were cutting my hair on our quote-unquote first date in my hotel bathroom.
That sounds ridiculous
I know,
as we're
right?
going over it.
Yeah, but how much fun were we having?
just
We
was
were
an
laughing.
adventure.
Yeah, we were laughing and giggling and carrying on. And then we stepped out in the hallway into the full-length mirror, and we were looking at my hair. I'm like, yeah, that kind of works. Like, let's go with that. And then I looked at you and I said, do you want me to kiss you right now?
No, you did not ask anything. You just did.
Oh, really?
No, there was no words. You just assumed.
No words.
Let me try this, and if we're good, we're good for the night.
Fair. That's probably what happened.
You did not say.
But
anything.
I do remember kissing you.
Yeah.
And when you kissed me back, I said, all right, well, this is probably going to be a really fun night.
Yes.
What were you thinking?
I think it was a bit aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was there for, the experience.
Yeah.
Which is so funny we're here now, because at the time I was like, that's a bit aggressive.
Yeah. I'm known for my aggressiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't ask you, do you want me to kiss you?
No.
Normally that's what I would ask a woman, do you want me to kiss you?
You didn't say a thing.
Because if they say yes, then you get yes. If they say maybe, that means yes. And if they say no, I'm like, okay, cool. You're like just checking.
You just went in for it.
Yeah. Well, I you must have been giving me kiss me vibes, which
maybe
probably you were.
Maybe.
Okay. So then we go downstairs, we go out and we have fun, and we're dancing. You and I are dancing at this Mexican restaurant, like at this dance floor. And then the thing I remember about you that makes me really like you, and it's so you. And what am I going to say?
The napkin.
Yes.
Well, it's so you. You still get that piece of food right there.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So I got a little piece of food on my thing, and then you took a napkin.
I grabbed a napkin and I wiped
and you wiped it for me. Like, this is on our first date.
Yeah.
This lady just wiped, because you're sitting right next to me because we're at kind of a big table. And I thought, oh, this chick's cool. Now, here's where the story gets very interesting.
Baby your men.
Yeah.
Gals.
Ladies. Here's where it got interesting, though, is after we had fun, we went back and, consummated the relationship.
Oh, my God.
And had a great time.
We did. So if anyone's wondering, we actually did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what?
My phone broke.
Oh, well, I was going to say I didn't stay. I left.
Yeah, you did leave.
Yeah. You're like, no, just stay. It's late. I was like,
it's
no.
late. Stay. And you're like, no, okay, bounce. And then you left.
You don't get all of this,
Yeah.
even though you had it.
Yeah. So what happened was my phone broke, or Facebook, something broke on my phone to where I didn't have my phone for like 2 days.
No, that was before.
No. It happened.
We got to get clear on this story.
Well, I'm very clear.
Because we just didn't hang out the next night. You said you hung out with someone else. And then the next night after that.
No, because here's what happened.
Because you texted me and you were like, want to come to my hotel.
Yeah, that was like 3 or 4 nights later.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, well, let me tell my version, and then you can fill in the details.
I can't believe how mixed up we are about this now.
There's only one person mixed up on this one. Because I remember you friend requested me.
That was before.
And I had to message you on Facebook.
You're getting the timeline a little back and forth.
Well, guess what? We agree to disagree. I remember what's right because I remembered. But
yeah, well, that is a situation that happened before that situation.
Got it. Okay. Well, regardless, here's the beautiful thing. God,
I wonder what the story really is now.
I know what it is because
so do I.
All right. Well,
we have to get our timeline straight.
Yeah, we're probably not going to agree on this one, but it doesn't matter. The point of the fact is, I did say come over a couple days later or what have you, and we started hanging out, and then I go, hey, let's go on a. I want to go to New England, Foxborough. I want to watch the New England Patriots on Monday Night Football for my birthday. It was on November 21st, so we hung out on 11/11. That was our first night together. It was 11/11. That's why it's a special date now. And then you said yes. We went there, had the time and trip of our lives, and as we were closing down the Monday Night Football hotel bar with the announcers, John Grudem and Mike Tirico, we professed our desire to be in a relationship with each other.
You asked me, and I said, are you drunk?
Yeah,
and you said, yes, but I've been thinking about it. I want to ask you. And I said, okay.
If I was to have a girlfriend, I would want her to be a lot like you. Because I wasn't looking for a girlfriend.
But that's confusing. You asked me to be your girlfriend. So
I
you
did
said,
ask.
will you be my girlfriend?
Yeah, will you be my girlfriend?
Yeah.
And you said, are you drunk? And I said, yeah, I am. But if I was to have a girlfriend, I'd want her to be a lot like you. So do you want to be my girlfriend? Smooth. Jazz. You're so stupid. Okay.
You're so stupid.
But that happened. Now, we're getting a little too in the details. I think we got to pick this up and move it along so that people are like, okay, that was great. That was cute. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you want to develop any more details?
So we were together 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And you had 3 kids.
Yep.
So it was Julia. She was 8 when we got together. So 8, 9, 10. Caleb, 11, 12. Josh.
Got it.
At a 25-year-old.
Yeah. So
we had a crazy 2 years. You
were
moved me to Vegas.
The stepmom.
I was a stepmom
I was
instantly.
Not the best dude ever. And I broke up with you about...
You blindsided me.
You. Yeah.
Big time.
You know, as we're telling this story, it's so weird because I think about all the insecurities that came up in those times and the bullshit way of thinking. And it's so interesting to think about how much bullshit I used to believe compared to what I believe now.
Yes.
And it makes me understand and help, like where we live in this, it makes me help me understand like why these men who are experiencing a lot of the shit that we experienced when I broke up with you and then when you came back and all the stuff that we went through before you finally said, fucking, I'm out of here. Even though we were like, dude, we're doing this for life. Like, this is us. Let's go. And you're like, fuck that. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
That whole... It makes sense to me now when people hear our story, why guys, certain guys, not all guys, but a segment of guys go, fuck, I hear hope in that. Like, because they're in such darkness and this ray of light comes in and goes, hey, by the way, my wife left me and here's how I got her back and I realized I was the problem, therefore I am the solution. So it's as we were walking through this and I'm thinking through all those crazy ideas we used to think about each other and about life.
Yeah.
No wonder people are like, fuck, this sounds like a lot of hope. What do you think about that?
That's the reason you broke up with me 2 years into our relationship is because you had all those insecurities. And while we ended up getting back together and then we had Jovi, that was a lot to get over. I think that was a lot. And then I thought our relationship would be different and you backed off even kind of more. So we were together 3 years after that and then I left you.
Yeah.
And because of the guy that you were not trying, not caring about anyone but yourself, pretty much. And a lot of people, men, jump into this situation in their minds. Well, a lot of young men, they think that growing their business, they have to shut everything off. And a lot of men can't do a lot of things at one time. So they invest all their time, you know, in their 20s to like grow a business, and maybe early 30s. And they focus only on that. And this is what you did. And you completely forgot about your family.
Yeah.
And that's why even some of your big kids have issues, because they said you kind of like you were aloof more.
Yeah.
And that's true. And that's why I left you.
Yep.
And man, how much we've grown since then and getting back together, and how hard it was when we got back together and the work that we put into that. I mean, we would put on these relationship growing thing on the computer, and we'd have to take a test on each other. And you'd be like, okay, are you ready to do the thing today? I'm like,
okay, let me interject a little bit.
It was
here.
bad.
Okay, because the temptation is to see that if a couple really likes each other, has lots of sex, and like really enjoys being around each other, it's that way the whole time. We are now telling you the part of the story that, okay, she left me, and that was a big epiphany for me.
It sucked.
You moved to a different state, eventually you began a different relationship.
Yeah.
You were
gone.
It wasn't like it was just done.
Yeah.
It was fucking done, over. That was a season of my
Just
life.
figuring out the Jovi thing.
Jovi's dad is in Vegas.
Yeah.
I live in California. Like it was that.
I was out.
And I don't know that people really understand how out you were. I think they think it was kind of out, but you were as out as out.
I was with someone else. I was done.
Yeah, you were done.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come back, and it is so awkward and so eggshells. I'm going, holy shit, did I? And I didn't, even though I knew I was the problem, I was the solution. I didn't know all the stuff I know today. I didn't actually have any tactical steps. Mm-mm. I had hired some coaches, but didn't necessarily know if I believed that they actually knew what the fuck they were doing. Mm-hmm. And so I think while I learned some tactics in that, I think a lot of it was just kind of some good luck and God's grace.
I know.
If I'm being honest.
Our grace.
Yeah. For each other.
But
like some hand was guiding us back together in a weird way.
Yeah, because then I think about it, I'm like, God, it was worse. So how did I even survive that?
Yeah, but
with you,
here's what you did.
Difficult.
This is where I think the point of the story can get really interesting for ladies and men, and it is we both committed to saying, you know what, we are going to do this work.
Yeah.
And I would say, hey, there's these videos we should listen to, and I remember the look on your face.
What?
Like, I'm like, come on, man. Like,
if we're here, we're here. I think you'd had to like talk me into it even a few times.
I felt like that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, if we're actually going to work on this thing, we might as well
be working on it. And I'm like, damn it, you're so right. Like, why did I come back then?
Yeah. Here's another crazy belief that came up for me. I remember at that time. And I was so sad that we had to work so hard at our relationship, because shouldn't it just be easy?
Yeah.
Isn't the right person just the easiest option? And the answer is no.
Right.
It's like anything in life. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be friction. The resistance is how planes fly. Resistance is how muscles built. Resistance is how fucking everything is made. Stuff is sanded down smooth. It's resistance, resistance, resistance. Yet in this one area we go, that's supposed to be resistance free. You're like, well, then it's not going to be very strong. It's not going to fly very high. It's not going to be very smooth. There's got to be resistance. Mm-hmm. Even to this day, I know when you and I are in a locked up resistance mode, I know in the back of my brain, this is what I think. Oh, we are about ready to experience something really sweet, because we are there's a breakthrough that's about ready to happen, because we're like, I fucking hate you.
It's true. From history, it doesn't feel like that in the moment, though.
But I know now. Yeah. The last 2 or 3 big resistances we've had, maybe over this last year, where we've gotten in fucking, what the fuck, man. Yeah. Every time there's a big breakthrough, we always go, we're going to talk about that on the podcast. Yeah. Like, good thing we go through that, because it reminds us. But in the midst of it, we're like,
but why us?
I know.
Because that's what it feels like.
So I think that it's important to note and important to remind everybody that at that moment, I don't know that either of us had a lot of hope either. Even though we were like, all right, we're back, we're making this work, we're doing this, we're really going the distance this time.
A big part of that going back was Jovi.
Yeah.
And I knew what our relationship could be and how open we both were to working on it. And I feel like if both partners are willing to work so hard at something, there's only one way it can go right.
Yeah.
Pretty much up. If we're both trying that hard.
Yeah. But kind of like working out in the gym, you don't really see the results seemingly for weeks or maybe months later.
Yeah,
and
it felt like that.
I feel like now we have a lot of hindsight because we've seen the path play out, and then we've also watched a bunch of other people, hundreds of people go down our same path that we've been able to help guide through the darkness and the fucking
fog,
melees and fog of all the craziness. But what I noticed is that the people that have some sort of blind faith in following our process, eventually it works. And we've had a couple of really close calls in the sense the guys they go through the program and we extend it for them to really, and finally the wife breaks and she goes, oh my God, you're everything I wanted. I just need to believe and trust that you were actually that.
There must have been a lot of, baggage shit that
that was the thing for you.
Yeah.
Was, okay, we've done this before. Why is this different? Did Keith really change? And I know for you had to see that I became these things for me, not for you. That's where so much
it would stick.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, well, then this is who he is. He's not just doing this, and then when he gets comfortable, he's going to put his foot off the gas, even though that is a tendency and a pattern of mine and most men. So these are actually these dark seasons that we went through, that we were both waking up going, fuck, is this really it? This is all there is?
Yep.
Those were actually the ones that gave us the lessons that everything that our relationship is built on now was built from that. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, like the phoenix.
Yeah. It was those dark moments that built a certain muscle that when we see it in others, we quickly recognize it. We're like, oh shit, you know what? Hey, you're thinking this right now, right? They go, yeah. I go, oh, think this way and it'll change. And like, thank you, man.
Yep.
You're fucking right.
Yep.
So we were doing work, even though it didn't feel like it. It was working. We didn't have sex for like 6 or 7 weeks from you coming back. And a big moment happened for me. I want to share this story because it was meaningful to me and it felt as real as anything has ever happened to me. And it's even easy for me to downplay it now, if I'm being honest, because it kind of sounds like, oh God, here we go. That's not lost on me. It feels like that to me as well. But it happened to me. So
especially when we're talking about the past, where I feel like in it with my emotions.
I do too.
Yeah.
And a lot of these lessons are popping up. I'm like, oh, that's where I remember where I learned that. That's where I learned that. But we're laying there in bed, and you still had some of your boxes packed up, still in the closet.
Yeah, I didn't unpack.
You didn't really unpack all the way.
No.
Some parts. And so for me, it was like, shit. Like, when am I going to feel that Jesse's actually here? Because I knew for me, my transformation was happening, and we would have never been able to articulate it the way we articulate it now. These were all things literally happening in the dark, and it wasn't until maybe a couple years later when we actually turned the light on, we go, oh my God, look what we fucking built. And we're like, dude, that thing's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, and then you look at all the pieces. Let's say it's a plane, and you go, oh, remember when we built those wings?
Yeah.
I remember what it took to build those. So it's why we have so much confidence and swagger in what we believe, and like we go, hey, this stacks up to anything, because we've seen what it actually built. But in the meantime, it didn't. It was fucking clunky as shit.
I forgot that I didn't unpack till you said it right now.
Yeah.
Which then I came back, so I wasn't fully there.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
So there's still 3 or 4 of these U-Haul, small to medium-sized boxes packed in your closet, kind of in the corner, and we're laying in bed.
Like just in case, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm watching this going, this feels like shit, but hey, at least she's back. And I know I'm doing the work, but fuck, am I doing the work? Is this work even working?
Why are we doing this?
Do I fucking know anything?
Yeah.
And at that point, No.
And I felt like I couldn't trust my own word because I had left you and then come back and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what? I can't make any decision on my own.
Too.
Yeah, I remember feeling like that. Any decision I make, I'm like, did I make all the wrong ones? Did I come back? Is that a mistake? Was leaving a mistake? Was all of it a mistake?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's mind-blowing for even us to go down this memory lane because I remember all those feelings of like, this isn't going to make it.
Yeah.
This isn't going to make it.
I even thought that like a year into it, there was moments that happened that would trigger me where I'm like, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah.
And then I put Jovi through that again. Like,
yeah.
And she doesn't remember, thank God, any of it.
She was so young.
Yeah.
Okay.
So God.
All right. So we're laying in bed. Boxes are still packed in the closet. We're laying in bed. We haven't had sex. 6 weeks. He didn't really touch me either. And if you did, I could tell it was very
like robotic.
Yeah, like I probably should do this, but I don't want to.
No.
And
God, it was way worse than when I left you.
Yeah.
It was worse.
Yeah,
after.
It was.
Yeah. Because we had been through so much in that time where I felt more pulled back.
Yeah.
And me being with someone else, and I did like that guy, but I just knew that wasn't gonna work, and that was just in between, just cause.
Yeah.
But yeah, to touch you felt like there were so many issues that we had been through where it felt like,
Man, I remember talks at that breakfast spot before you left, when you were coming back. I remember we were up there by the Postal Pros where we'd eat breakfast there and we'd have conversations. And man, what a horrible experience! What a horrible fucking experience we put each other through. Like genuinely.
Yeah.
Looking back, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm laying in bed, and your foot touches mine, and like I instantly just start like really crying, and I it was like, you got her back, but do you have her heart? Is she just here? Is she going to leave again? Were you this close to the goal line and really you can't close the deal? Are you really becoming this guy that you thought you were? Like, all these things are going through my head, and there's not the kind of clarity that we have now about like, oh, well, that's out. That's like, none of that is existing. It's all fucking foggy. It's all emotional. It's all the things that make people just grieve and rip their hearts out. And am I not? And your foot touches me, and I start crying. I thought, this is as low as it gets. And right in that moment, I get like this. It wasn't an audible word, but it was like this like impression on my heart. I don't know how to explain it. So it can probably be explained a million different ways. But for me, it was like what?
Yeah.
My hand? For me, it was
mine.
like, and it sounded so crazy, so I didn't even want to really believe it. But it was like, you're going to help millions of men solve this problem that you're going through right now.
That sounds crazy.
I'm like, I haven't solved it. You're at the wrong fucking house.
Yeah.
It's not solved. If you haven't noticed, we haven't had sex for 6 weeks. She touches my foot in bed, and I fucking lose my shit.
And you got up and went into your closet, didn't you?
I don't remember.
And then you were crying, and I was like, oh, we're going to do this again.
I don't think that was the time.
No?
No.
That was a different time?
Yeah, that was when I was feeling sad that you didn't like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of crying.
Same season.
Oh, yeah.
It
Probably was a few days before.
It was fucking horrible.
It was awful.
But in that bed, I just cried quietly. I don't think you knew. And I was just like, what a fucking joke this all is. And then you have all these regrets. Like, what could I just have not just let her go? Because I had gotten over you while you were gone, but not really.
Not really.
But you
didn't.
You'd gotten over me, but not really.
Yeah.
And so we're like, what the fuck are we doing? This is so stupid. Like, but yet
I wanted our
we are.
old beginning fresh relationship
Yeah.
back again.
Yeah.
Out of all those
So
years
we
in
hired
between, I
coaches.
was like, yeah.
And we're doing these modules and taking down things and, okay, write down 3 things that you're grateful about your person. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Exactly.
I don't know about it.
I was
have
like,
one.
I like that he's willing to try.
That was exactly what you said.
I know. Because I did. I liked that.
And
I like that in someone.
That gave me so much hope. Now, okay.
All those little things kept giving hope, even though they were awful to do.
They were like the
That's all we
smallest
had.
rays of hope. And we're like, oh, hold on to that.
And you're like, okay,
So that's why when
keep
guys
trying.
come to marriage game and like, dude, I think something positive happened. And I'm like, tell me. I'm like, we're going to use that thread of hope. And it's going to be a part of this tapestry you're weaving.
Because she's, instead of saying, oh, we'll never get there, it's like, well, maybe. You're like, wow, hold on to that. Yeah, when we coach someone.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge switch, actually.
Well, I think hope comes in threads.
Yeah.
It doesn't come as a whole fucking blanket. Mm-mm. It comes one thread at a time, and you're just piecing it together.
You're weaving it as it comes.
Eventually, you weave it together and go, oh.
Here's a little
Because
napkin.
now we look at it and we go, oh, well, we had to go through that because we had to learn that. And you got to figure that out before you figure that out. And, well, that makes sense. And it's now I look back, and it's even kind of surreal going through it here on the phone or on the microphones with you. Mm-hmm. But that night, there was kind of this weird thing, like you're gonna help millions of dudes solve this problem, and I had all the same ideas. Like, that's a little fucking narcissistic. I'm going through this. I'm coming to this thing. Who am I to help all these people? Like, this is so like this is dumb. And so there was a piece of me that's like, oh wow. The other piece of me is like, I think you got the wrong guy. The other piece of me is like, haven't solved anything, so check you in a couple years. Another piece of me is like, this is fucking ridiculous. I didn't ask to be this. I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. How embarrassing is all this? Holy fuck. Like, all the things.
All the things. It was crazy.
I don't think we really solved it until the San Clemente house. Mm-hmm. When I realized that there was some dials that I had not learned to crank up in our life, because we came to another impasse April 15th of 2000, I want to say 18, but it might have been 19. Mm-hmm. Let's call it 2019. Mm-hmm. We had already been back together 2 years maybe, and had built a beautiful relationship, but there was these pieces of our relationship where if either of us stepped on it, it was like a fucking landmine, mm-hmm. and it would blow shit to smithereens, and we would wonder if anything was left to salvage. Mm-hmm. Pretty decent way of saying it.
Yes.
And I remember I recorded it. Do
you have it?
And yes. And I recorded it, and I remember feeling like I was a watchman on the wall that had fallen asleep, and I had forgotten the vow I made to myself when you came back about becoming the best version of me. I didn't even know become the best version of me for me was a thing. I didn't know that either. It was just a mode. It was just something I kind of was following, but I still didn't know. I couldn't articulate any of the shit that you and I had learned really at all, even though we kind of understood how somebody could get their ex back psychologically and what we had experienced, but we hadn't really worked with anybody, even though people started like calling us while we're doing our real estate and our investing and all the things. People are calling us going, hey, like our close friends, hey, I know you got Jesse back. Do you think you could help this guy? I'm like, yeah.
Sure.
And if I'm going to spend my time, because I already was used to making, more money than most people, I'm like, well, my time is valuable. So if I'm going to spend time with it, I just started charging.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it made me start to, and you as well, to start articulating how did this actually work? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I realized I'd fallen asleep on the wall again.
Yeah.
That I realized fuck.
Is all this going to happen again, that breakup again?
And it felt very real.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, again, that was what woke me up to, all right, well, what does it really mean? And that was where I started coming up with the dial system.
And you came up with a metric. That's the dial. It's metrics because you said, I remember you saying this too at that house, was, if I put metrics to my business, how come I'm not doing it with my marriage and my relationship?
Yeah.
Why? Because in business, those things keep you on track. You track your numbers, you track your people, your email list, all the things, right? You're tracking everything in a business.
Yeah.
So why aren't you doing that with a marriage? Because you keep falling off.
Yeah.
And so then you put the dials, and we came up with the dials or whatever, but the metric system for our marriage.
Yeah.
So you don't fall off again.
Yep. And
it makes so much sense.
But simultaneously, I had randomly befriended a guy who had met more men struggling with this problem that I solve, probably more than anybody on planet Earth, if you think about it. Garrett and Wake Up Warrior for 8 or 10 years at that point had so many men come in with fucked up marriages, and Garrett was like, I know a way or two to fix this, but you know like 100.
Yeah.
So he and I start surfing every day, and we're bouncing ideas back and forth, and he's telling me about some of the situations with guys in Warrior. I'm like, oh, well, he needs to do this, this, and this. He goes, how do you know that? I go, I don't fucking know.
And you know and knew all those things. You knew all those things because you fucked it up so much in so many ways, and you had consistently done that.
I had fucked it up every which way to Sunday 14 times over.
Yeah.
And you and I actually would have to learn these lessons from you. Somehow you were able to communicate in a way, and the wizard, thank God.
Yeah.
As we're going through all of this, and I'm surfing with a guy that has 27 marriage problems that he's dealing with in Voxer every single day, and he's like, hey, I got a question for you. If this happened, this happened, this happened, what do you think the idea is? I'm using a tremendous amount of compression to what these conversations look like. But basically like, oh, well, it's this, this, and this. And he's like, yeah, you're fucking right. That is what that is. Oh, shit.
So then you started talking about it and giving answers to those things, and you yourself were like, this is it.
Well, that's what Garrett said. He goes, you've got all this game.
Yeah.
In real life.
Yeah.
And he had seen how you and I got along well, and just our banter. So he was like, okay, there's evidence and fruit of these guys.
We have fun.
They're fun.
Yeah.
They're fucking. They're friends. They're flirty. They're all the things. Could you teach this to married dudes? And that's kind of, he's the one who gave us the married game name and all this stuff. So it was like.
Thank you, Garrett.
Yeah, thank you, Garrett.
Yeah.
We would have, but he was actually dealing with a problem in a major way that most people don't deal with unless you're like a marriage counselor. But he took it from a different angle of like, own up to it, and if you don't fucking like it, be willing to leave to change the situation. So he had a couple of tools. But when we would talk through shit, I'd be like, yes, that's not wrong, but here's something that's a little more right, and here's why. And it started to actually give me a sounding board to realize, oh my God, this guy knows a lot. Like me, I'm like listening to my own advice, and then I'm talking with you, and I'm like, we're going through shit, and then we're starting to develop all this stuff, and I'm like, fuck, there's
starting and frameworks to it.
And then we're like, well, what
and
is
you
the
and I
framework?
would talk about our past and be like, okay, well, how did we feel in that moment? What did we learn from that hindsight now?
Yeah.
So that's what we kept doing, is going to that back and forth. And then after we had talked, that you're like, the next day, you're like, I created a framework for this situation. I'm like, oh shit, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it.
Between Garrett's validation of my ideas on men that he was working with, and your validation of my ideas, our ideas, but my like, hey, here's actually how it works. Because you were really great about the pieces. This is a piece, this is a piece, this is a piece. And I'd be like,
here's how I felt, here's how you felt, here's how we worked through it. And then you put it together. I'd be like, well, in a way that's you can teach it and other people can understand.
Like this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and here's why, and this is the insecurity, and this is how it overcame. And you're like, so your validation, I'm like, yeah, that's fucking right, Keith.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it, and then people who were teaching just because they were our friends and paying us because they needed help, that's how it all came together to where now we look at this and we go, it's so fucking clear.
Yeah.
The problems are so easy to analyze and dissect almost, it's like instant. A piece of the tone and you pick it up. A guy can open his mouth for a half a fucking beat and just his tone, and you're like, I know what's going on. His body language, and you know what the fuck's happening. dude, that is a very far cry from 6.5 years ago when your fucking toe touched my leg and I start crying to now this. And even to this day, this whole story leading all the way up through it is there's just a radical amount of curiosity of why things work. They work both in your brain and in my brain, and we actually attack it very differently. Even though we use the same words, we attack it very differently, to where even you and I, when we go through things like this last week, we went through, some stuff that we were just really working through. But here's what I wanted to say about this, because I use this as an example. When this guy was telling me, he goes, I was working on my marriage, and their marriage was total shit. And I go, are you guys working on it, or are you just trying to figure out how to live with each other? Because to me, there's saving a marriage and then there's working on a marriage. And saving a marriage is doing what it takes to get you guys to actually see yourselves as teammates and partners and lovers, and to start to act in a way that a team would actually act. Then working on your marriage is what I think you and I are doing, and what people who have come out of the pit and now they're trying to ascend this mountain of just oneness, really. If you actually think about it, just this oneness of enjoying each other, building. And it takes all right, did you guys want to add this wing to this marriage that you built? Yeah, well, you know what's going to take? What? We're going to have to do some digging and lay a new foundation, because we can't build anything off that. And we're like, fuck, dude. And that's what it feels like. Would you agree?
It feels like that. Even just to sustain what we do, because we're not veering from what we've done to get here. So even just to stay here, I mean, we do our wizard calls together, we do our dates, we communicate, we talk, we do breakfast, and sometimes we fall off and we're like, we got to get right back on.
Yeah.
Because this is what keeps us going strong.
Yeah.
It's
both.
Still an intention we put into our relationship, every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. I think the word obsessed could be used about how we feel about our relationship because of the work that we put in. But I used to think obsession was like a stroke of lightning from heaven, and now you're obsessed. That's how I used to think. My paradigm was you got struck by the obsession bug for you to be obsessed. And I've experienced this before in my life. I was obsessed with this, and I became obsessed with bodyboarding. I became obsessed with the Bible. I became obsessed with whatever. And I get this thing, and I go, wait a second. Actually, an obsession can be a choice. I used to believe that beliefs dictated behavior, and I believe that that's correct most of the time. But there are times that I learned through 75 Hard, the behavior actually created the new belief. And it's the same thing that I believe about marriage, and why when I say we're building it and we're working on it, it's like, okay, what's the behavior that we're both trying to get? If we start acting in a way that's consistent with that behavior through our behaviors, the belief usually is the one that follows. So I've actually discovered for my own life, and I want to tell the world this because I want many men who are struggling in their marriage, or women, it's the behavior that actually brings about the belief, and it's not the other way around. I think that's a big truth.
I would say definitely yes, because now looking back at how we got back together, and not that I had the feeling of those things, but the motion of going through it, because I know what we could have been and could be. And obviously I was right. So
you were.
I had to just go through the motions, and my feelings started to follow, and I started to fall back in love with you after that.
Yeah. That is another thing that people were probably...
Because they're like, I don't feel like it, right?
Yeah. Well, yes.
I don't feel like doing the work. I don't feel like doing those calls with you. I don't feel like touching you.
Yeah.
But as in doing those things, now look at us.
Yeah. You're exactly right. It has to be, what is the behavior that you're optimizing for, and do that behavior and let the belief follow. Because there were a lot of times where you didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like it. There are times now where we kind of like, you know what, I'd like for you to go fuck yourself right now. And we genuinely believe that. I think that is normal. The reason why I believe it's normal is because everybody fucking goes through it. And how could you not believe it's normal if it's actually normal? Like it's if everybody goes through it, that's normal. And there's a way to get out of normal, and or to recognize normal and still build regardless, and still go on regardless, still do the right things regardless. Let me give a quick example of that, because I want to make sure people understand, like, what's a practical example of that? Like, in theory, that sounds great, and maybe we're fired up for that, but what in theory? So if you and I are mad at each other, which happens, like, genuinely, I'm just like, fuck that. I hate her. You know what I mean? Not really, but I hate her.
Feels like that.
Yeah. And I'm still going to make you your green drink, because that's the behavior that I signed up for. Like, my standard is, even if I hate this lady right now, I'm making her green drink. I'm going to try to talk to her without tone, without all. I'm still going to try to show up. This is the hardest. This, to me, it's the hardest, to actually still show up as if you were some brand new date I was excited to go on.
Yep.
Because now I just want to be like, you need to learn your lesson. You're a fucking whatever, and blah, blah, blah. So
our tendencies, the negative, immature sides of us come out in those times, but it's with our maturity that we're like, don't let that person come out.
Yeah.
Still be this person. Still be the bigger person.
Figure out why that person wants to come out, and figure out what's going on. And that person might come out because you're acting a certain way, and we need to address it. I need to address you, or you need to address me. But most people either just hide it or ignore it, rather than go, okay, let's get curious about why this keeps happening.
Like, especially when in the moment, how I would want to talk to you is how I don't. Like, I still try to contain this. Yeah. But my immature or old self I want to say, like, way worse things. Yeah. And a lot of people just let that out, and they're like, well, I was mad. But, like, don't let that out. Don't just say things that you are going to regret later. I really try not to do that. Yeah, because most people are emotionally driven, and they let their emotions actually impregnate the words way more than they should. Yeah. And it's usually some trauma response or some insecurity that's happening. Or I heard the way my parents speak to each other when they were fighting. I'm like, oh, I've learned that, obviously. I want to make one big point before we close it down. It was fun going down memory lane. I think it gives people a little perspective. Hurts my heart, thinking about those things. Well, it's why I've always kind of said, you are the real MVP, because you stood up for a standard that you were not going to settle for anymore. And I think that both people have to do that or say that from time to time. They go, hey, man. Yes. This has got I got a grievance, or I've got a complaint, and I need to let you know about it. But that being said, the image that has become really clear to me lately, and you just reemphasized it, was like it to get the fruit of this relationship, and the fruit is oneness. Like, guys want their wives. They want to know their wife actually wants them. They want to know their wife actually wants to be around them. The fruit of that is, it's going to take work and time to become that guy or that gal. And I think that's another fallacy people don't understand. Yes, you might experience a mindset shift or a change by things that we say. And for me, it feels like men in darkness that are desperate. They hear our voice, and it becomes that thread or that ray of hope. But it's not just one mindset shift. It's thousands over and over and over and over and over and over again. You become this refined thing, and we're not even refined yet. We're like still clunky in areas. You know what I mean? So this is why I think we've dedicated, and why we feel so passionate. I don't feel called by anybody. I feel like we called ourselves and said, you know what? Fuck it. We got to just say what the hell we're seeing around here. And a lot of this stuff is some bullshit. And for some reason, we have enough credibility in the way we look, the way we talk, our life, what we have, that people go, all right, I'll listen to what these people have to say. So I think that is where, for me, that's where my confidence comes in. It's like, I've never actually ever cared if anybody thought we were worthy or credentialed or credible enough to say this, because when you go through all that, you're like, I already know. Yeah. And it's just that voice in the wilderness saying, hey, man, you can do this.
but it's going to take work. And for us to understand, I think you and I just came to the understanding that this is going to take an investment on our behalf. Is that the same way you look at it?
I like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I love what we do now. I'm thankful in a way, even though now that I think about it and went down that vein, I'm like, God, that was so difficult. So difficult. But I am thankful that we're here now and that what we've made of it, of all of our pain and suffering and trying every single day.
Let me ask you this in closing. All the pain, all the showing up the days when you didn't want to, all the stuff that we've done to have a marriage that is one that we're like really proud of, like where we just say, hey, just do what we're doing. You're gonna like you can't go wrong. If you just do what we're doing, you can't go wrong. And like to really feel that, do you think? And I know I heard you just say it, but I want to like, do you think it was worth it? Not because we've created a business off of it. That's here nor there as far as I'm concerned.
Because of the life we've built, like us?
Like genuinely because of the relationship that we've built.
Well,
think
yeah.
it was worth it?
I love our life now. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Who's to say if we would have found somebody else what that relationship would be? But whatever we did, and now that we're here, I love our life. So
It feels like, agreed, so do
And I love that we're together. I love that we have Jovi together. I love the house, the life, where we live, our relationship, the fun, the way we communicate, all the things. I love our life.
Yeah. So it's worth it. Well, there you have it. Men, listen. It is worth it, but it will cost you. It will take time. It will take energy. It will take money. It will take figuring out the skill set. A lot of this wasn't just because I have a good personality. It was because they were skills. I had a great personality and she left me. So it wasn't the personality. It was the skills that I needed to learn about what does it actually mean to be the most attractive version of me. And so the choice is yours. Are you going to continue to complain about where you're at, what you're doing, how it is, the fruit that you keep continuing to taste? Or are you going to say, you know what? It's time for me to be the game changer. It's time for me to step in and for me to step up and become the guy I'm going to be. For those of you who this is resonating in your heart and you're like, you know what? I'm tired of fucking being an amateur. I'm tired of being a rookie. I'm tired of making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I actually want to learn from somebody who has not only done it himself, but has helped hundreds of others to do it as well. Then simply go to marriedgame.com, watch that video, jump in, follow the instructions, and learn from somebody to help get you what you want. Whether your marriage is bad and you want it to be good, or whether it's good and you want it to be great, hang with us. We got you. Listen to what we say, and we'll get you where you want to go. And as Jesse Joy said, it's worth it. So, with that being said,
worth it.
Don't be a nerd. Spread the word. Keep crushing it, because that shit is contagious.